Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Senate meeting. We are here virtually today. Let me share my screen so y'all can see a couple of my stuff. Okay, I know last time this was an issue. Okay. Okay, can everyone see the PowerPoint well? Awesome. Alrighty. Because we're in a virtual platform, if anyone needs captions, please press the three dots in the right-hand corner. And of course, everyone speak clearly, slowly, directly into the mic, and avoid any background noises. And of course, one speaker at a time. Because we're in a virtual platform, let's make sure that we're using some of the features. So if you need to be recognized, please use the raise hand feature. I'm going to be very picky about that today. And make sure we're using proper parliamentary procedures. Just because I don't think Gracie's going to be here today, so I'll be taking notes of the minutes. So, alrighty. So today is February 23rd, 2022, and I call this meeting to order at 5:37 p.m. I am going to start roll call. Senator Shiloh, Senator Brown, Senator McDowell.
Here.
Senator Allen.
Here.
Senator Lee.
Here.
Senator Banerjee.
Here.
Senator Castellanos.
Here.
Senator Garcia.
Here.
Senator Gillis.
Here.
Senator Guevara.
Here.
Senator Johnson.
Here.
Senator McFarland.
Here.
Senator Ruiz. Yes.
Here.
Sorry, I got them flipped. Senator Taylor. Nope. What's that noise? Okay. Senator Van Voris.
Here.
Senator M.
Here.
Senator Cowell.
Here.
Senator Baker.
Present.
Senator Imadu.
Here.
If I butcher it, please correct me.
Understood. I got you.
Okay. Senator Schulte's not here. And Senator Quiventora. All right, I believe we have four senators not present. I believe we have about 17 senators present, and we have quorum. Awesome. All right, code reminders. Again, you know the drill. Get vaccinated and boosted. Get tested, and of course, encourage wearing face coverings. Today's agenda is pretty straightforward. We have executive reports. We have approval of minutes. We have unfinished business. We have included unfinished business, and we have a written motion that was submitted. So it's S2021-W1, and we also have S2022-B2. We also have new business. We have consideration of Supreme Court appointment. We have S2022-B3, S2022-R4, S2022-R5, and at the end, shoutouts and adjournment. So I'm going to pass it off to JT if he's present on the call, if he has any executive reports to present.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I do have some things to report. This past Monday, the interns did have their first year town hall. It was very successful in terms of all of our guests showing up. The attendance wasn't as high as I would have liked it to be, but the interns did a really great job with moderating the panel, making sure the questions were going good. Just the energy and flow. And the bigger lesson that I taught them with this is when it comes to town hall, you give students the platforms to advocate on their behalf to admin. And that was the bigger lesson of it. And I'm very proud of them. So I definitely want to shout out the interns. Also, shout out to Senator Schulte for being there. She asked a couple of questions, and I really appreciate it.
Except on 380.
Okay, can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, and I really appreciated her support. So shout out to Senator Schulte. Next Monday, we are having a meeting. The interns have expressed a meeting about running and what that looks like when you run for Senate, being in Senate, and also just being a part of the executive board. So shout out to Senator Sophia, who has already reached out. She will be one of the people who has agreed to come and speak with them next Monday, and I'll send her the details on Friday about that. And also to David and Casey from the executive staff will be a part of those other names included. So that's pretty much my report. I also started working on transition documents today earlier. So that's pretty much about it for my report. Please reach out to your interns. I'm gonna send an email out probably on Friday as well, Friday morning, reaching out to those senators that have failed to reach out to their interns. They have stressed that to me. It's about 3 of you. So I'll send an email out to remind you. But please check that list that David and me sent out a couple weeks ago. It's your responsibility to be reaching out to them. And if you don't want to participate, please let me know. That way I can find them another senator who is actively trying that wants to work with them.
All righty. Do you have any questions for JT? I see some hands raised. Senator Johnson.
Hi, JT. So for the reaching out to having the senator to get for the election thing for the interns, is it just one senator or can it be like multiple, or is you're all closed off now because you've got executive and Senate now, technically?
So as I mentioned last Wednesday to all of you, told you to reach out to me by Friday, and I gave you that hard deadline. Sophia was the only senator that reached out, and because of that, I honored that. And she was the one that was selected to be a part of it. No other senator has sent me email even after the deadline, so I just assumed Sophia was the only one that wanted to participate.
So it's too late to sign up for that?
Yes, it's too late.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for JT? If not, thank you, JT. Our next person is Alexis, our co-director for diversity and inclusion. You have the floor.
Can y'all hear me? Or am I loud? Okay, awesome. So, hi everyone, I'm Alexis. As David said before, I am co-director of diversity and inclusion. I wrote actually a couple paragraphs, so bear with me. I'm just gonna read them out. So with my report, I have already created and printed solicitation forms for voter registration, which one of my ambassadors, Emma Lara, is spearheading. Emma had already emailed me all the information that I needed, and I'm proud of her for that. We will start tabling, fingers crossed, if I get all the signatures that I needed from exec and Krista. Hopefully beginning of March. It will happen every Tuesday and Wednesday until mid-April from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So again, we're tabling at Library Mall. If you want to be a DVR, which I know a couple of exec is, and I don't know if any of you senators are, but I would hope so. Or want to know how you can get involved in helping table and get people registered to vote, please feel free to email me. I want this to be a full SGA project. Voting is important. I know SGA is a nonpartisan group, but I think getting people registered to vote and let them voice their concerns is very important. Going on, the leadership panel is in full swing. I have confirmed 5 out of 6 of the panelists, with one being tentative. I'm waiting on their schedule to make sure they can confirm it. I will read out the panelists that I do have currently. They are JT, who is our intern director, Maria Lawson, Omar Ward, Aaliyah Walker, who is one of the ambassadors, Roy Jimenez, and hopefully I can announce the last panelist once they do confirm. I did have a meeting with Gina Vanacore, I hope I'm saying that right, from Housing. She's the director of Housing at UNT. And I will be reaching out to Trisha Rodriguez from the Center for Leadership and Service about a donation drive, hopefully for dorms at the end of the year, where we can have people give their gently used items before graduation ends, and we can give it to the community to help out people that might need it. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at sgaambassador@unt.edu, and that is the end of my report.
Alrighty. Is there any questions for Alexis? Alrighty. Thank you, Alexis.
Thank y'all.
And we have Zoe on the call, our other co-director of diversity and inclusion. Don't think she's present. Totally okay. I'm going to pass it off to Maya, our outreach director.
Yes, hi everyone. So I did submit my exec report, David, if you want to put it on.
Of course.
Besides that, the only thing I have to add is I've been really focused on committees. Today I set the final deadline for reaching out to all the members of the committees and knowing if they're going to remain an active committee member. That being said, if you know that you're in an advocacy committee or you're a chair of advocacy committee, please make sure to reach out to me by the end of the day via email if you wish to remain an active member in your committee. Other than that, I don't have anything else to add other than what's on my original exec report.
I'm just trying to pull it up. Do you have any questions for Maya? If not, we'll move on.
I have a question. Sorry, I'm trying to raise my hand, but it's not working well. If I can just say it.
Yeah, go ahead. Is that Senator Lee? Awesome.
Yes. Hey Maya. So my question, I was going to email you about it. For some of the external committees, like if we've never met, we never had a chair. What if there's still going to be a process going forward for that, or if it's like the committee's just being scrapped?
So I'm currently awaiting for disability inclusion, city and state relations, and non-traditional student affairs. I sent out a Google Doc to everyone in those committees asking for their availability so I can set a first meeting. But just getting all of the emails of people who are wanting to remain an active member. Quorum is now shifting in some of these committees. But if you're in one of those three committees, please also send that and fill out the Google Doc by this evening as well.
All right.
Thank you.
Devin, go ahead. I think you had a comment.
Yeah, I was just gonna add on to that. As we get some of this, as we get some of the responses back on committees, we're gonna get a feel for what interests there are for those committees. We'll probably keep committees open for membership for a while, probably re-advertise, but if we're not getting any student interest, we have to reevaluate if that committee, if it makes sense to have that committee. That said, if these issues are important, we're going to do what we can to get it pushed out. If we're starting to see some of these committees wane, and certainly if you or someone you know are interested, please feel free to reach out to them. But as we get more information on these committees, we'll have to assess what that's going to look like, and then doing what we can to help with any events, or if y'all are trying to do like any kind of like maybe research or something like that, we can definitely work with committee chairs. Yeah, so we just need to make sure that people who are on the committees are active in the committees, and so that's kind of what we're trying to assess right now. And then once we know that, we'll have a better feel for what the committees are looking like going forward.
Alrighty. Senator Johnson, go ahead.
Sorry, it's like my thing comes up. There's like 30 other messages that pops up. Okay, so oh my God, people. Okay, so this is directed towards Maya again. So last meetings of the past couple meetings, you said that the external committees met quorum. Or that was just the numbers you had, and now we're going back to it? And
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so this is just a double check?
Yeah, it's just a double check because there are just some, we're just having trouble reaching out to every single member, and just getting scheduling weekly meetings where everyone can attend. So I think we're just trying to figure out who's trying to be an active member, attending every meeting and communicating with the chairs.
Oh,
to tag on to that just real quick, some of my committee nominations are on hold until I can get a better feel for the availability on these committees. So I was going to discuss this in my report, but since we're talking about it, so the sooner that we can get that information, if you're a chair or a vice chair or whatever, it's going to be important that we get that information so I can start putting people on committees that want to be on those committees. So just want to throw that in there as well. I guess if David's out, so Saloni's the chair. So.
David, I think you might be muted.
Okay, sorry. I think I'm able to share my screen now. Aha, yes. Okay. Sorry. There we go. That was her report. Sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead, whoever was talking.
I just wrapped up my response. We're tagging on to Maya, so I think we're good on that front.
Okay. Maya, do you have anything else to add to your report?
I think that's it for me. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you. Next off, let's see what we have. I don't think we have. Okay, I'm gonna just go to Casey, our chief of staff, for their report.
All right, I hope everyone's having a great day. So this last week is in really just trying to prepare for March, and especially today, with anticipating what the university might do. As y'all saw, the university closed at 3 p.m. today, so I was just making sure everything was kind of cleared up on my desktop, sent some stuff over onto my flash drive so I can go home and work on some stuff while I won't be here at the university. I'm really just trying to clean up for next week, so when I get here, I'm not really behind when it comes to purchasing and just sending emails out to people and just making sure that I'm up to date on what needs to be focused on, whether it's planning events with the staff as they move into their March schedule, and then starting to prepare hopefully a calendar with Maya for March, as well as any lingering invoices that I needed to send over to my wonderful GA. So, any questions? Thank you.
Alrighty, I'm gonna quickly share my screen before I pass it off to you, Devin. This was Zoe's report. Hopefully, y'all can see the report. Some updates. She's working on a week diversity and inclusion. There was a conflict with Union Fest and other events, so I'm going to reschedule that. So she's going to keep you posted. And then, of course, the UNT Diversity and Inclusion Student Survey. If you have any potential questions to include in the survey, please email Zoe at sgainclusion@unt.edu. And I'll definitely send that out to y'all. Trying to think what else. Here is, let's do Collins first. Collins working on TikToks, hopefully posting one a week. Graphic stuff. Please reach out to him and partner with Colin if you have not had a headshot. I know we have a couple senators, so I would love to have your amazing headshot onto our PowerPoint. He's also planning to do some giveaways, other items to be for promotion at events, promo items, and make sure to follow us and tag us if you're participating in any meeting with any department or for any of our senators as well. Trying to think. Hopefully I can see Bella's as well. I'm gonna zoom in. So now Eagles Nest is now allocated $48,000. Super excited. We're hitting zero, y'all. That means Bella's on it. Same thing for Ralph, $29,000 have been distributed. They're now almost at zero. There's still a little bit left. And I think we'll be considering S2022-B2 to hopefully they'll go more in detail. They have upcoming 5 events. Be on the lookout. Transition documents, of course. I'm working with other orgs. But those were their reports. I'm going to pass it off to Devin so he can give his report.
All right. Thank you. Comparatively, I think this has been a little bit of a slower week, but I did have a good meeting, really good meeting actually, with Transportation and Student Financial Services. And so we're trying to make sure that we're maintaining relationships with the departments on campus. We had an election board interview, still finalizing some stuff on that. I haven't made a nomination yet. And then we have another interview with the judicial branch candidate. I think we just got an application in, so we'll probably actually have 2. Been working on constitutional revisions, budget reallocations, which of course is on the agenda, with Casey, and Casey's done fantastic work on that. And I also appreciate the staff for getting me their budget statuses so that we can try to do that in an effective way. I'm working on some other stuff legislatively, but that's still in the works. I'm following up with Dr. Kelly. So we did receive a response to the legislation. And I'm still trying to work on the legislative update. We got a response back from Dr. Kelly, and so I'm trying to go through that and try to get the legislative update figured out. Essentially, they want to, so there's this thing called High Flex. High Flex is supposed to be like a really advanced way of having like a hybrid class setting. The ability to do that has been somewhat inhibited by supply chain issues. So they're thinking that the supply chain issues are going to lighten as we go throughout the semester. And so we'll be able to shift more classes to that high flex standard. And they're hoping that most, if not all, of our general academic classrooms will be in that high flex standard by the end of the semester and by the end of the summer, just depending on the supply chain issues. We're following up on standard media versus high flex, and the issues of one versus the other, and professors having the ability to do hybrid options. How does the department play a role in that, stuff like that. So we're trying to get a little bit more information right now, but we do have an initial response on hybrid modality. We set up a meeting with the Pride Alliance to discuss some things, David and I, looking forward to that meeting. I attended the UNT PD town hall with some others. I appreciate those that were able to go to the town hall. There were some really good questions asked. Senator Johnson had some pretty good questions as well, and I appreciate Senator Johnson for being there and asking those questions. And there was some pretty good food. The fried green beans are always great after the event. And then I did meet with Maria Lawson, who's the editor-in-chief of the NT Daily, and of course one of our amazing intern mentors. in her official capacity to discuss independent journalism, independent print journalism within the context of what's happening at Texas A&M University, and just kind of making sure that we're having that line of communication and making sure that we're talking about these important issues. So definitely we're having meetings, we're setting up more meetings, we're trying to get some policy stuff figured out. But I'm hoping that there will be some more tangible stuff for y'all in the next week as we have some of these meetings and as we get some more legislative updates for some of the stuff. So I think that's where we're at for the week. Does anyone have any questions? I don't know if you recognize someone, David, but
Yes, I did. Senator Lee, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, David. Or yeah, it's not David.
Devin.
It's been a long week. Devin.
It's all good.
Sorry, I was looking at Devin's picture. So you were mentioning that your student response and they were looking at implementing hybrid options for all the classes. Do you know if they have any plans to make that known to the student body, like put out an announcement saying, hey, we're in the process of working on something? Because I know for a lot of students that would probably provide some relief to know that even if it's not quite in the works yet, it's something that they're looking on. They just have maybe some logistic inhibitors. Is that something that they mentioned, or is it kind of like they're still so far back in the stages that they're just planning it and kind of, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's already been some classes that have been transferred to that, but obviously, the rate of which they're able to do that depends on when and how they can get their supplies. But no, I mean, I don't think that's something that I included in my follow-up, but I can send another follow-up and kind of get a feel for if they're able to, maybe put out like an email or maybe like a post or something. I mean, we're definitely open to seeing if we can try to advertise that. But it's not something that I've specifically followed up on, though I can.
Gotcha. I was thinking like transparency, not that they're hiding it, but just like I think it definitely would give some people a better opinion of admin if that information was out there.
Yeah. Communication. No, I don't disagree. It's something I can follow up with them on. It just hasn't come up yet.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
And then Senator Ruiz.
Sorry, I had a little trouble finding the unmute button. Hi, Devin.
Hey.
Oh gosh. So that's actually really great to hear that you received word back from admin. My question is, I don't know if you spoke with the doctor about this, but regarding the issue that we're seeing, I spoke with President Neal directly, and he had told me that it's up to the professors to decide whether or not they want to provide a Zoom link. So if there were given this this brand new tech option to go more hybrid, would it still be up to the discretion of the professors, or is it something that admin is going to implement as much as possible for as many classes as possible?
So that's an excellent question. And this kind of goes back to the standard media versus high flex kind of comparison that we're looking at, right? And so I spoke with Neil about this as well, and I think there's a general consensus among administration that providing professors with that opportunity when the professors ask for that opportunity is kind of the focus. Now, I believe my understanding is those requests have to be approved through a process. So while the professor can do that option, I think there's a process. I think it goes through the CLEAR office, might go through the provost office for approval. And so now if the university is taking the position that, professors should have that option, then I don't think there's cases in which the university is rejecting those applications, although I can't say for sure one way or the other. But I think there's a process. I'm not sure that they're able to just change that process, but it is a bit of a process, right? So something that I'm trying to get a better feel for is, so there were two aspects to this, right? So you have your general classrooms and then you have your specialized classrooms, so your labs and your music classes and all that. The big focus is on general academic classrooms, and so we're looking into they're looking into options on that. With the difference between standard media versus high flex, and I would want to return to this in the next meeting, but I believe my understanding is they support professors' ability to go to the hybrid option even if the HyFlex isn't available to them. But they're trying to get HyFlex in there so that because what HyFlex does is it helps you hear like student questions versus just the professor, and then that also allows the professor to move around the room versus just staying at the podium. So it's supposed to critically enhance one's ability to participate in an online format. But of course, not every classroom has that capability. And so what we just need to make sure is that if professors are attempting to use standard media, that they're able to do so when they request. And my understanding is that's the case right now, but I'll try to get a more tangible clarification in my follow-up. I don't know if that answers your question, Kaylin, but I hope it does.
It answers it to I would say 3/4 of it. I mean, my main question that I'm trying to ask is that, so we've been receiving a lot of emails because I am in the USPAAC, and a lot of the emails that we've been receiving from students have been in direct collaboration from their professors saying that it's up higher than them, that they can't do Zoom meetings anymore, that they aren't allowed to provide students with Zoom links even if they are sick with COVID. This is just the things that I've been receiving from my constituents, essentially, that they have been saying that how someone is higher up telling professors that they're unable to provide Zoom links anymore. So I'm just curious to see how Dr. Cowley was gonna kind of address that, because I think a mass-wide email needs to be like sent to students, or not even just to students, but to also staff, regarding reiterating that no one higher up should be telling them that they can't be providing Zoom links, is what essentially I'm trying to get at.
No, that makes sense. That was kind of I'm pulling up Dr. Kelly's email now just to see if I can provide maybe additional clarification. So Dr. Kelly said faculty members have the choice to permit remote access to in-person instruction. They have the choice of how they provide alternate access to instruction for those who are unable to join class due to COVID or other reasons. The technology that they're installing in classrooms is supposed to be an enabler of a better quality experience, like what I was mentioning earlier, for students who request remote access. That was in response to questions about like what the approval process is. I probably will follow up asking for more clarification, maybe a little bit more detail on that process. But the response makes it seem as though it's entirely up to the professor's discretion. So I think there were specific instances in our legislation that I can probably follow up on. If you have any additional anything that wasn't in our legislation, you can definitely get with me on that, and we can definitely follow up on that as well. But that was the response I got from Dr. Cowley. So that's all I know at this point.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Devin? Alrighty. It's time for my report. So definitely had more one-on-ones throughout this last week and this week with different peeps. I also today attended the student advisory meeting that Dr. With usually hosts with various student leaders. They definitely had a guest speaker from Rec Sports, and I invited them to come to one of our future Senate meetings to hopefully discuss changes to some of their facilities and what they have in store for the next couple of years. Updated the SGA website, and I believe you should also get my communication on the new bylaws update. So it's been updated to reflect the changes y'all approved in S2022-B2. Again, Devin mentioned you have a meeting with Pride Alliance. I also attended Being Black in Modern America, a panel that UPC, the Multicultural Center, and BSU collaborated on. Senate applications. I have one pending, College Science, and hopefully they got in their signature, so hopefully they'll be considered hopefully soon. And I also have one College of Business. So hopefully, knocking on wood, we'll have them in soon. And then just kind of housekeeping stuff. I know we're entering March. We have midterms. Please take care of yourselves. Take a walk. Not right now. It's cold and freezing. But definitely make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You're eating. I know that at times we forget to do those small things. So I'm just kind of wanted to say that I'm here as a resource if y'all ever need to want to chat or anything, because I'm here to empower y'all. But other than that, that's pretty much all the stuff that I have. Do we have any questions for me? Senator Johnson, go ahead.
So yeah, so it pertains to to kind of what's going on, kind of thing about your recommendations of what's in the public in the Senate unofficial group chat. If we're talking about like where's the line? Like, so if I want to partner with another senator, or I'm letting other senators know, like, hey, I'm working on this. Is there anyone who wants to do this with me? What would be the proper channels to do that other than the Senate unofficial?
Regarding conducting official business, that is more of, let me backtrack. So y'all can collaborate and reach out to anyone. I encourage y'all to collaborate and definitely work on legislation, have meetings with who you need to have to address any issues that may concern. The things I'm referring to when it comes to discussing or conducting any official business outside a public Senate meeting, the student body does not have access to that. And it's more about transparency. It's more about the student body having access to those discussions and other things like that. Yeah, does that answer your question?
No, not really. What I mean, I know the transparency and stuff like that. That's what I get. But I'm saying, like, if we're wanting to like reach out, or like just if we're just being like fun, like, oh, look at my cute dog kind of thing, that's what could be in the Senate unofficial. But when it comes to official, like, let's say, I'm not saying like have a meeting, but like let's say I reach out, like I'm doing something with transportation or the police department or UNTPD, sorry. And I say, is there a senator who wants to work with me on this? Boom. Is that the extent of it goes, and that's okay to put in the Senate unofficial? Or do I need to go through the Senate teams, or do I need to just send a straight email kind of thing?
Devin has his hand raised. Devin, you want to chime in?
Yeah, just because I know we've had discussions about it before, and not just with this year and previous years as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, David, but I think the idea is the Senate is a good time to say this is something I'm working on, and if anyone's interested, please reach out to me, right? That's kind of what we do with the college reports, and it's a public format in which we're being open and honest about kind of what we're working on. So if there's a situation of, hey, I'm trying to do this thing with transportation, is anyone interested? The Senate's a good time to do that, particularly during announcements. But if we're talking about like, we need to introduce this legislation, and what do you think about putting this into the legislation, or we should do this or we shouldn't do that. That's all public discourse that should be in the public sphere. So if it's like, look at this cute picture of a dog, that's fine, that's just whatever. But when it comes to like issues that could be discussed in a Senate meeting, that's really kind of a public discussion. It should be for the public domain. Now, and Grant, this, whenever I was a senator and outside of, exec, I had frequent conversations with senators about getting legislation set up. The issue is when you're meeting with a quorum, what would be considered a quorum of senators outside of the Senate meeting. So not really in any of our conversations, Grant, did we have all the senators at one place and talking about these issues. If we did, that's where I would have had a problem. So interacting with individual senators or even like maybe 2 senators at a time, that's probably, I would think that's fine. I don't know. I mean, that's my personal opinion. But when it's a quorum of people and you have enough people where you could conduct business, then it's something that should be done in official business in a public sphere. It's a matter of transparency, but it's also to protect the student body as well.
Yeah, I definitely want to add on a couple things. So I know in the summer, I don't know, y'all remember, I reached to all our elected senators. The whole purpose of the unofficial group chat was for us to get to know each other. It was not to talk about anything about SGA related. It was more for us to get to know each other on a personal level. I think that we should be using that space to get to know each other and to make plans and things. I think we should transition into, if we're going to start conducting business, it should be on Teams. It should be via email. That's just a recommendation. But again, if it's the full Senate, if you have quorum, that's where it becomes a little tricky. And I'll definitely have conversations if things are happening of that nature. So just to reemphasize, I'll go, Devin.
I was just going to mention one more thing, because I know sometimes, trust me, I know, and Grant, we had this issue last year. Sometimes it's not convenient to wait to the next meeting to talk about business because people are being a problem, specifically with some of the stuff that happened last year. So if anyone who's in the Senate is interested in having a meeting outside the regular meetings, come talk to me. I can call a special session if you think it's something that we need to have a specific discussion about. You can also reach out to the officers. I believe the officers are also able to call special sessions. In Senate meetings, you don't necessarily have to vote on things. It could be a work session. So if the Senate feels that would be, beneficial, I'm more than willing to work with any senator on doing that, and I'm sure the officers would be willing to do that as well. We want to make sure that you'll have opportunities to discuss these things as to a reasonable extent, as frequently as you can, and when y'all are together. But just doing it outside of public scrutiny, that could be a bit of an issue. So. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm more than willing to try to work with senators to provide opportunities outside of just the weekly regular meetings. But I just need to kind of be told that we want to have these discussions, and we can definitely try to get something set up.
Yeah. Senator Shiloh?
Yes, I just had one more clarification. Does that also like talking about if we're acting as students, so like if we're just talking about things going on campus? The reason I ask that is because it's relevant to what actually goes on, like outside of discussion, just having like regular conversations as UNT students. And I also ask that because like if we're talking about setting up extra meetings outside of Senate, realistically we're all students. So I don't know how feasible it is for us to how much sense it will make to set up a whole meeting if we're just talking as UNT students and not in our capacity as senators.
I think that's a good point. However, I think once we start talking about doing things about issues in sense for a Senate meeting, that's where I'm more referring about. I don't mind y'all collaborating. I would encourage y'all to collaborate, but I think the issue is the quorum of y'all making decisions and having everything planned out. So a regular Senate meeting won't be that long and not including other people. Does that make sense?
Yes, and one more
if I can,
is the main issue that is in the Senate unofficial group chat, and that's representing SGA, or is it just in general?
Can I weigh in on that, David?
Sure.
So there's a couple of things. When it comes to like federal, state government, all that kind of stuff, there's actually very strict rules about this. You cannot talk about business outside of a quorum. Typically, I mean, SGA is not the federal or state government, but the reason why that rule exists at those levels is because it's in the interest of the student body. It's in the interest of the constituency. you don't want to have senators coming to agreements or to decisions outside of the public sphere and then not being able to hold those senators accountable or understand where those senators are coming from. So when you take a public position like the position I'm in, like the position you're in, there's a standard for the way in which we discuss business, because that's what we do. Whenever we make decisions outside of the public sphere, the student body can be harmed by that, because they weren't able to see what decisions or agreements were being made. They aren't able to see if there was anything untoward maybe happening versus if it were in a public meeting. Now, I'm not saying y'all would do anything like that. I'm saying as a general rule, we need to make sure that we're protecting the interests of the student body. And this is a generally accepted rule across many levels of government. When you represent a constituency, there's an expectation of how one should conduct themselves. That's why we have a code of conduct for the Senate. And so, and you'll notice in the code of conduct, there are certain restrictions, there are certain expectations that regular students might not have. And that just comes with the responsibility of representing a constituency. So making sure that when we're trying to come to when we're deliberating, coming to decisions, there's a time and a place, and you know, if it's a situation of, yeah, I can't believe this happened, or, you know, I wish they hadn't done that, and that's really all it is. Like, I've done that with senators in passing, but when you're trying to convince someone of something, or when you're trying to reach an agreement, when you're trying to discuss an issue, that should be something in the public sphere, then that's something that should be saved for a public meeting. I guess what I'm just trying to say is, when you're in a position of public office, there's a different expectation for how we conduct business. David, is there anything that I said that you disagree with? I mean, I want to be, okay.
No.
Just wanna throw that out there.
All right. Senator Van Voris.
I just want to clarify that our Senate unofficial group chat, nobody is deciding business in it. We definitely talk about issues that may be presented around campus, but for the most part, we've been very productive in terms of, hey, if we want to take action against this issue, or do something in terms of legislation, we've said, hey, loop me in an email. So I think there's a bit of disparity going on when it comes to discussing what goes on in our Senate unofficial chat. Also, if there is a specific issue that needs to be addressed, I would argue that that needs to be done in maybe another heart-to-heart conversation, not taking up time in a Senate meeting, especially when the university is closed and we are experiencing poor weather. So with that, I'd like to move to the next portion of our agenda.
Is there a second?
Senator Johnson seconds.
All righty. We'll move on to the next item. Of course, if you have any questions, you can email me at sjvp@unt.edu, and we'll receive more communication on that matter. All righty. Let's see. We're going to pull up our minutes. Okay. More. Just give me 1 second, y'all. Okay, I'm going to share my screen so y'all can see minutes from last week. I'm just going to scroll. Were there any issues? If there's not any concerns, the minutes are approved unanimously. Oh, never mind. Sophia, do you still have a point? Okay, awesome. Moving on to the next item of the agenda. So we have unfinished business. We have S2022-W1, motion to amend S2022-B2. Senator Cal, you have the floor.
Yes, so due to this meeting being online, not everybody's present. I moved to move, I moved to,
postpone.
postpone. Thank you. I move to postpone the discussion on S2022-B2 to next week, where all senators can be present, and it will be in person. And if I understand correctly, because if it is postponed, the motion evaporates into thin air, so it would not be discussed in today's meeting.
So you want to postpone S2022-W1 and S2022-B2 for next week?
So if I understand correctly, the S2022-W1 is not technically, that movement hasn't been made technically, so I wouldn't have to postpone it.
Okay.
It would just be the B2.
Okay. Is there a second on just B2?
Senator Johnson seconds.
Does anyone object?
Point of information, Mr. Speaker. I don't know who's available, but is there anyone who can comment on the timeline, and how that would work out?
Timeline and
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the president.
Make sure you're raising your hand to recognize anyone.
Senator M seconds.
Awesome. Go ahead, Devin.
Okay. Good question. So really at this point, a special election isn't feasible. And that's what this motion was originally in regards to. So there'll need to be a discussion about moving it to a general election anyways. As far as the general election format is concerned, if we postponed by a week, we'd still be within the deadline for referendum submission. I wouldn't take 2 weeks to review, like that shouldn't be a problem. So if we postpone by a week and like we're discussing and voting on the document next week, there shouldn't be any timeline issues with getting it on the referendum. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Anyone object? Nope. The motion passes unanimously. Awesome. Okay. Let's move on to the next item. Consideration of Supreme Court appointment. We do have Andy present. Devin, go ahead for your disclosure.
To the best of my knowledge, no one on the staff has any connection or affiliation with the candidate. I certainly don't. So there's not really anything to report on that front. I'm very excited to introduce y'all to Andy.
Alrighty, Andy. Please state why you would be a good fit for the court. Provide anything that you feel would best support that. The floor is all yours.
Thank you. I want to thank the Senate for taking the time to meet with me, and so thank you very much for that, and hope everybody's doing well. My name is Andy Valverde, and I just want to introduce myself. I am a senior here at UNT. I'm a non-traditional student. I'm also a member of the registered with the ODA for the Office of Disabilities. I'm a double major, psychology and rehabilitation studies. So I'm really active in the community and also within the doing service work and also volunteering within the school. I've had several throughout my career in work and at school career. I've had academic career. I've had leadership positions and responsibilities, and also I've had times where I've had to make impartial decisions and step away and distance myself from any kind of emotional, sorry, that's my Alexa going off, and any kind of emotional stance that one may have. I've been able to, so sorry, Alexa, stop. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, so I've had moments where I've had to be impartial, distance myself from any kind of emotional response to a situation, to a decision, and come down to what I thought was objectively a right or just a decision.
All righty, thank you. The floor is open for any motions. Senator Johnson?
I move that we go to a period of questioning.
Is there
Senator Allen seconds.
All right, seconded by Senator Allen. you have the first question.
So, Andy, so you mentioned earlier that you can distance yourself from, emotional, kind of the weight of if you might have to decide on a decision or not. My question that follows up on that is, have you ever been, how do I word this? That you would be able to maybe disagree with others, like let's say another Supreme Court justice disagrees with you and you won't hold that against them or on another issue that may or may not arise kind of thing? You think you would be able to do that?
Yes, I would. And I've encountered that several times. And it's not necessarily a agreeing to disagree. It's coming to a place of understanding where the other person is coming from, because an individual will come with many different lenses and filters based on their experience, education, and also the interests that they have in mind. So it's not about holding any kind of emotional or any kind of grudge against any kind of decision that was made, but it's more about coming to an area of understanding and saying, okay, that's what that was. Now let's move forward, continue to do the work that we need to do.
That's a wonderful, wonderful answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, Senator Ruiz.
Hi, Andy. It's so wonderful to have you here. I'm very excited to have you here. I wanted to stretch on what you previously said about you being a non-traditional student. As a non-traditional student myself, I feel like it's very important, if you are appointed and elected, to increase the kind of representativeness we give on campus. So how would you, if elected and appointed, how would you mobilize that kind of idea that as a non-traditional student, you could provide, or not provide, but you would represent more opportunities for students who are non-traditional?
Well, so I think being a Supreme Court, being elected or chosen to be Supreme Court, one of the justices would be a lot of visibility for a non-traditional student already. And being vocal about the fact that I am a non-traditional student would play the part. But any kind of mobilization or advocacy towards other types of students or my students that I am, I think might be outside the purview of a justice being impartial, because I would need to be able to make sure that I'm within the jurisdiction, within the responsibilities of the position. But definitely just the fact that being visible and vocal about it adds a lot of visibility for other students to say, hey, there's someone like me out there also. I'm not just someone in the distance going back and forth or, work non-traditionally just being very far from school.
Excellent answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or motions? Senator Gillis?
And anyone can feel free to stop me here, but if there aren't any further questions, I think we should move to a period of closed discussion.
Senator Johnson seconds.
All right. Seconded. Okay. Andy, so we're now in a period of closed discussion. If you wouldn't mind leaving the meeting, we'll definitely have someone ask you to join back into the call after the Senate has deliberated and made a decision.
Thank you so much, everyone. Talk to you shortly.
All righty. Just gonna make sure. Alrighty, Senator Gillis, you have the first discussion point.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I just want to say I really like this guy. He seems very, very knowledgeable, very skilled. I mean, he seems like the type to have done his research. I think we need someone who's going to be impartial, and I think he's stressed that. He's stressed that he's going to do that. And I feel personally that he would make a great addition to SGA. So, yeah, I get good vibes from this guy. I really do.
All righty. Senator Garcia?
Mic check. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I affirm what Senator Gillis said. I think he would be a great addition. Not only his stress of objectivity that he would bring to the Supreme Court, but also not the Supreme Court, but as well as the accessibility and the representation of accessibility that can be shown in his own role. His very position itself shows how accessible SGA is, how accessible student government as a whole is, and how anyone can do this position. And I think he would just be a great addition. Thank you.
Awesome. Senator Lee.
Okay, is it working now?
Yes, it is.
All right. I'd like to move to a period of voting. I moved, yeah, I go to a period of voting.
Is there a second?
Senator Garcia seconds.
All right, Senator Garcia. Awesome. Does anyone object? No objections. Awesome. We're now in a period of voting. Let me share my screen. Actually, I'm not going to share my screen. Is this with the right one? Okay. I'm going to start off. Senator Shiloh.
Aye.
Senator Brown is not here. Senator McDowell. Senator McDowell. Okay, I'm gonna leave that blank. Senator Allen.
Aye.
Senator Banerjee.
Aye.
Senator Senator Lee, I'm sorry, I skipped over you. Go on. Senator Lee.
Yeah. She voted aye, but she had to step away for a second.
Okay, awesome. Senator Castellanos.
Aye.
Senator Garcia.
Aye.
Senator Gillis.
Aye.
Senator Guevara.
Aye.
Senator Johnson.
Aye.
Senator McFarland.
Aye.
Senator Ruiz. Senator Ruiz.
Oh, aye. You cut out. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Senator Taylor's not here. Senator Van Voorhis.
Aye.
Senator M.
Aye.
Senator Cowell.
Aye.
Senator Baker.
Aye.
Senator Imaru. Senator Winston.
Aye.
Okay. And then, okay. Schulte, no. Quintero, no. All right. I believe we have a 2/3 threshold, and it was a unanimous vote. Andy is our next justice on the Supreme Court. Awesome. If we can get someone. I'm gonna mute. Okay, awesome. If we can get someone to get back in, Devin, or if you can get Andy back. Awesome. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, and we have S2022-B2 budget reallocations and funding programs donation. So let me get that pulled up for y'all. Awesome. Let me share my screen. Alrighty, hopefully everyone can see my screen. Hopefully we have one of the authors present, and if not, I can read. Devin. Okay.
Oh, the budget.
Yeah.
Andy's back in the meeting, by the way.
Andy, hellos. Congratulations. You are now a new justice on the Supreme Court. Devin will definitely reach out about the next steps, but congratulations.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the vote of confidence.
Thank you. Alrighty, Devin, take it away.
All right. S2022-B2 Budget Reallocations and Funding Program Donations. Whereas the Eagle's Nest and B. Craig Raup travel grant funds are expected to be fully depleted soon due to the hard work of Student Allocations Director Bella Armenta and the active community at UNC. Whereas President Skinner has identified budget surpluses in the Student Government Association budget and requested a budget report by all directors. Whereas following a thorough review of planned expenditures for the semester, Chief of Staff Jimenez and President Skinner have identified opportunities for reallocations in order to provide a one-time supplement to the Eagle's Nest and B. Craig Raup travel grant funds. Whereas reallocation to the Eagle's Nest and B. Craig Raup travel grant funds would be of direct benefit to the student body while still leaving funding for programming and other SGA initiatives. Let it be resolved that the following adjustments be made to the SGA budget line items. Chief of Staff, decreasing office supplies by $200, decreasing sponsorships by $1,000, executive retreat decreased by $200, travel decreased by $1,000, holiday lights decreased by $100, discretionary spending decreased by $600. Under the Communications Director budget, decrease of $1,418.65 for shirts, a decrease of $60 for marketing and social media. Scroll, thank you. Under the Outreach Director, there would be a reduction of $390 for town halls, reduction of $300 for committees, reduction of $100 for general programs. Under Director of Diversity and Inclusion, there would be a reduction of $250 for general programs. Under Student Allocations Director, there would be a reduction of $210 for committee supplies. And under the Interim Program Director, there would be a reduction of $500.01, resulting in a total reduction of $6,328.66. Let it be further resolved that an amount of $3,164.33 be donated to both the Eagle's Nest Fund and the B. Craig Raup Travel Grant Fund. Respectfully submitted, Devin Skinner, SGA President, Bella Armenta, SGA Student Allocations Director, and Casey Jimenez, SGA Chief of Staff.
Alrighty. The floor is open for any motions. Senator Johnson.
So I know that am I muted?
No.
I think there needs to be a motion though.
Yep.
Like, can y'all hear me? Is that what
yes.
Okay. So, I mean, they've been trying to transparent about this. So with that, I move that we go to, since this is a bill, a period of discussion or questioning.
There's no motions on the floor. You are recognized. So what motion would you like to present to the Senate?
So I think I sent this to you, David, as emergency status, right, David?
Did you?
That's what I was trying to figure out.
And so I believe that was the case because we're going to run out on funds. I think we're pretty much out on route. So I'm pretty sure I sent that to you in emergency status, David. And if that's correct, then I would think a motion for discussion would be in order. But that's at the call of the speaker, of course.
Okay. Then go ahead, Grant. Yep.
So I move to go to period of discussion because this is emergency status then?
Yes.
All right.
100 Kaylin seconds.
Okay. So Kaylin, awesome. Do you have the floor?
Real quick, Mr. Speaker.
I seconded.
Yeah, she seconded. I made the motion.
Yeah, Kaylin seconded.
So that means I get to speak first, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because you said Kaylin, sorry.
I'm writing down the minutes. So.
No, I get it. It's bringing back the old Senate days.
Yeah.
So real quick, serving on both committees, again, shout out to Bella for doing an absolutely amazing job on getting everything down to zero to where we have to allocate more funds to it. I've served on the Eagles Nest Committee, as well as I was a honorary member of Raup, which was a lot of fun. We did a late night session, and these are both wonderful organizations. So I say, honestly, my thing is that we just go, honestly, straight to a period of voting if no one.
If I could interject real quick, Dave, sorry, Grant, really does take me back to Senate days. I did have a request for an amendment. If we wouldn't mind going to, if you wouldn't mind entertaining that.
Yeah.
So a few things. So Eagles
Wait, real quick,
Nest.
Devin, you want me to
Yes.
make the amendment first, and then we go into it, and then you tell us what it is, or do we need to discuss it first since we're in the period of discussion?
I can discuss it first, just so you know what to amend, and then we can kind of go from there. So just a couple things. Route is essentially out of money. Eagles Nest, I think, has about 10K left, but Bella anticipates that that'll be gone pretty quickly. 10K can go by pretty fast when it's Eagles Nest. So, as I'm sure you know, Grant. What we're looking at doing, just to provide some context, I've been informed that the telecommunications line, so that existed in the past because I believe we paid for like the phone lines in the office. I don't believe we do that anymore based on some conversations that my staff has been having. We learned that after the budget was submitted, the budget amendment was submitted. So if the Senate's willing, I would like to. Oh, and something else. We spoke. I wasn't the one who did this. I think someone spoke with Krista. There was some concern about exec retreat going down to 200 from 400, just because that might be a little too tight. So if we took the 876, turned it into 676, put the 200 back into exec retreat, and then split the extra $676 among the two other funds, that would still be an increase compared to where the budget is now. So the idea would be to eliminate on the legislation here, to strike the executive retreat line, and then to add in the chief of staff section $876 reduction in telecommunications, and then adding the half of that, which I can calculate real quick, and then putting half of whatever's left to Eagles Nest and Route. That might have been complicated. Did you understand what I'm trying to say?
Me?
Yeah, or anyone, but I know you're the one that was looking at doing the motion.
I got you. I mean, honestly, I don't know if this is the correct procedure, but honestly, I say I move that we amend to make the adjustments the president made. And then, honestly, because I couldn't catch all those numbers. The math portion I didn't get.
No, you're good. David, is that fine?
Yeah. Is there a second?
Setter M seconds.
Okay.
Do you want me to walk you through it real quick, David?
Yes, please.
Okay, so strike executive retreat.
Okay.
And then add telecommunications. And then colon, and then minus $876. $876. There you go. .00. Thank you. And then so we're adding telecommunications to the legislation, and then if you'll scroll down, the total amount. So let's see here. That's 6328.66 plus 8 plus 676. So change the total, or strike the total amount and replace with 7,000. $7,004.66.
How many cents?
66.
Okay.
And if yeah.
Okay.
And then if you'll add the $sign and then a
yes. Comma. Alrighty. Does anyone object?
Sorry, can you add a comma? And I have one more part to the amendment.
Okay.
Can you add a comma after 7, please? No, not after the 6, after the 7. $7,004. Thanks. Nice. All right. And then the split amount, so that's 3164.33 plus 338. So change that amount in the further resolved to $3,502.
$3,502
and 33 cents. And then striking out the 3,164.
Okay.
And I believe, yes, that concludes my motion, or my recommended motion.
Does anyone object? No objection. The amendments pass. Alrighty. Any other motions on the floor? Senator Johnson.
Just two things. Does Rachel have her hand up? Because it's been up for a hot minute.
Yeah, I was just waiting for the amendment to finish.
Okay. I thought it was
So,
okay.
I vacate to her.
You
Or
mean-
yield to her, sorry.
Okay. Sorry about that, Rachel. Go ahead.
No worries. I move to go to a period of questioning.
Questioning. Okay, is there a second?
Senator Johnson, second.
Alrighty. Senator Lee, go ahead.
All right. Hi guys. You can just go back into the authors. I don't want to exclude anyone unless it's just Devin, Bella, and Casey. Okay. So my question, I guess I don't think Bella's on the call. Was just if you talked to all of the execs whenever you were allocating the funds. I know obviously Bella and Casey are co-authors, and you said you talked to Krista, but if you talk to like JT and everyone about reallocating those funds, just to make sure it's like just kind of what the process was for
Yeah,
selecting those specifically.
Yeah, so I can walk you through it. So I sent a memo to the staff to provide budget updates by a certain date. And when I got those budget reports, I looked to see pretty much what money was left over that we could pull from. Specifically with Collins, I spoke with him because we had a conversation, like we talked about the t-shirts and all that. So Collins was a little different, but the rest of it was mostly just whatever money was left over. There were two directors that didn't get their reports to me. I won't say who they are just because I don't think that's necessary for this discussion, but in those cases, I exercised my best judgment based on what I understood they were doing in those positions. So,
as well as the two budgets that weren't in time, I have had conversations with those two people, and they are okay with the changes that are being made.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
All right. Any other motions or questions on the floor? Senator Johnson.
Mr. Speaker, if there are no further questions, I move that we go to a period of voting.
Senator Gillis seconds.
Awesome. Anyone object? Nope. Alrighty. Stop sharing my screen. Let me get that Excel sheet pulled up. Senator Shiloh.
Aye.
Senator Allen.
Aye.
Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Banerjee.
Aye.
Senator Castellanos.
Aye.
Senator Garcia.
Aye.
Senator Gillis.
Aye.
Senator Guevara.
Aye.
Senator Johnson.
Aye.
Senator McFarland.
Aye.
Senator Ruiz.
Aye.
Senator Van Voris.
Aye.
Senator M.
Aye.
Senator Cowell.
Aye.
Senator Baker.
Aye.
Senator Imer Madu. Winston?
Aye. Sorry, the connection.
Oh, no, you're good. Alrighty, I believe we have a 2/3 threshold and it was a unanimous vote. The bill passes. Alrighty, let's move on to the next item on the agenda. We have S2022-R4 door decoration policy within residence hall submitted by Senator Ethan Gillis and Senator Winston E. Miyamoto. Let me get that pulled up for y'all. And of course, Devin, this legislation would go to your office for your approval or veto. Let me get that pulled up for y'all. R4. Alrighty. And then Ethan and Winston, whenever y'all ready, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, everyone. Just want to start by saying that this is both Winston and I's first piece of legislation. So super excited to be kind of before everyone today. Try to keep this as straightforward as possible, so we'll just get into it. S2022-R4 door decoration policy within residence halls. Whereas it is commonplace for door decorations with a student's name to be put on the doors of students living in residence halls. Whereas door decorations are typically placed on students' doors prior to move-in day. Whereas door decorations may prove to be problematic as they may use the student's dead name or former identity, which causes discomfort or frustration. Whereas door decorations may also be problematic during a period like move-in day where parents and others are entering as a student's living space, as they may potentially out a student to their parents should they use a student's preferred name on the door prior to move-in. Let it be resolved that door decorations will not be placed on a student's door until a student confirms what their preferred name is after they have moved in. Let it be further resolved that RAs will ask their residents what their preferred name is prior to the placement of door decorations. Let it be further resolved that this legislation will be sent to the following individuals: Dr. Gina Vanacore, Executive Director of Housing and Residence Life, and Daniel Armitage, Associate Vice President for Auxiliary Services. Respectfully submitted, Senator Ethan Gillis and Senator Winston E. Miyamoto.
Awesome. Floor is open for any motions. Senator Lee?
I move to go to a period of questioning.
Is there a second?
Senator
Allen seconds.
All right, seconded by Senator Allen. Senator Lee, the floor is yours.
All right. Hi, guys. Hi, Ethan. Hi, Winston. First, I just want to say I really like this bill. As a lot of y'all know, I'm an RA, so anything related to housing makes me really excited. I just want to know if y'all have talked to anyone, reached out to housing about this, if you've talked to Dr. Vanacore, any of the assistant directors about their thoughts on this, because I know this is something that it is a big issue, and we do have kind of our own protocol within housing, but there's definitely room for improvement. So just if you've reached out to any housing admin prior to drafting this bill.
Yeah, so that is an excellent question, and the answer is yes. While we have not spoken with Dr. Vanacore yet, we are planning on doing that. The meeting had to get pushed back. That discussion was supposed to happen last week. It was rescheduled to tomorrow, but with the university being closed, I don't know when that will happen. But by the time this does go before the Senate to be voted on, there will be a discussion that has happened with Dr. Vanacore, and at that point, we will be able to amend the document should any changes be necessary. But so far, in my discourse with them, they have seemed to be very supportive of it. But like I said, by the time we meet again, I'll have met with Dr. Vanacore. Winston and I both will have met with Dr. Vanacore, and we will, if any amendments need to be made, we can propose them before the Senate at that point.
Awesome. Senator Cowell?
So I'm obviously super glad that you guys are talking to people in upper housing. I want to ask, have you talked to any RAs about this?
Not outside of my hall. So I do live in Mozart Square. So I have had a few discussions with some RAs, and they have seemed to like the idea. But that's something that I feel we can totally. There's always room for more discussion to be had. So while we have talked with some RAs, it has been a more limited pool. So, I mean, that's something we're certainly open to doing should there be RAs who have suggestions or issues with this.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Garcia?
Hi, mic check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Ethan, are you aware that RAs need to make door decorations much ahead of time before the academic year starts, and also before their residents are actually introduced to Microsoft Teams, which is their primary use of communication, also the application that displays their name?
Yes, so that is something that was taken into consideration, and that is definitely an issue that will need to be addressed. And the reason I didn't outline any procedure in this particular legislation is because, frankly, I wanted to know what Dr. Vanacore would suggest for going about doing that. So I did not specifically outline anything just because I wanted to know if they had any things in mind. And honestly, that might be up to an RA's discretion. But for me, the main issue was, things are obviously going to have to change if this particular change is implemented. And that may mean, RAs have to make name tags after their students move in. But I think if by doing that, we're creating a more accepting space for our students here at UNT, one where students don't show up on move-in day and all see a name already put up on the door that, does not represent who they are. I think that is a sacrifice that's going to have to be made. But that was certainly something that's taken into consideration, and it will absolutely be addressed once there has been some discussion made with admin.
Senator Lee.
Hi, me again. Two things, Mr. Speaker. Is it in order to make an amendment in the
Yes.
questioning? Okay. If I could suggest an amendment, I would suggest for the I can't see the document very well. For the second, let it further be resolved. If you add someone to send it to, I would recommend Tomas Sanchez. He's the director of Residence Life. Gina is more kind of like upper administration, while Tomas, he specifically handles like the curriculum that RAs have that outlines the requirements of stuff that we're supposed to do during training, and manages a lot of that. He also has a cool mohawk. I can hear.
Tomas.
Yes, Tomas Sanchez.
Thank you for making that suggestion, Rachel.
And what was his position?
He's the director of Residence Life. I put it in the chat.
Is there a second?
Senator Baker seconds.
Awesome. Does anyone object? Nope. The motion passes.
Okay.
Awesome.
Follow-up question, Mr. Speaker, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. My question was also if y'all were aware that the way that RAs do the nameplates is based on what's in our system, which I believe is based on e-housing, where residents can change it to whatever they're comfortable, and it is typically something that parents see. So I personally have talked to a lot of like trans or non-binary students who specifically put their dead name on there for their own safety, and then afterwards will say, "Hey, please call me this, but don't change my nameplate." So it tends to be for some residents, like having their nameplate already there as their dead name helps them with their safety. I just wonder if that's something that y'all were aware of or that you considered, and also just how long it takes to make them. Oh man.
Right. Yeah, those are both definitely valid points. And I think, that there are certainly ways that it has been done where, a name tag will be made and then a student will go up and say, hey, I would like you to change it to this. And there are also RAs who are really great about this, who already do reach out and say, hey, do I have the right name on the door? The real point of this piece of legislation is to just standardize the process, just make it across the board. Every RA is held to that standard of you need to be making sure people's preferred names were on there. And to the point of like how long they take to make, like, that is absolutely something I have had in my head since the beginning. Like, I know the convenience and the ability to say these are the names I already have is great. It's just I think this is one of the sacrifices we have to make to ensure that our university is as accepting as we can be, because I have had so many friends, so many peers as well come and express these concerns to me of, they showed up on move-in day and they feel instantly, invalidated. And so that is, one of the one of the detriments of this particular resolution, having to take that time once your students move in to address that. But yeah, that also, if there is an idea around having that requirement, then that is also absolutely, we're open to discussion in that regard. But.
And sorry, I don't want to talk too much, but just for clarification, another thing that a lot of people do that is currently in place, I don't know if you're aware of it, is they'll make the decoration and then they'll have the name be a separate piece of paper. So that way you already have the decoration there, and then it's real easy to just rip off that name and print a new one. And that is something that's suggested to us from our staff. So it is, I don't personally, I feel like there's a lot of stuff already within the administration that, sorry, we're getting into discussion, not a question.
Yes.
I will defer to the next person.
Alrighty, Senator Garcia.
Hi, another question. Do you still believe that now is the best time to introduce this bill with the lack of procedural clarification, the lack of formal consultation to upper housing representatives, and a lack of understanding of the implementation of how e-housing works, and as well as the procedural, the way that names are actually put on the doors, and basically, do you think that now is still the best time to introduce this bill without consulting upper staff or without any formal consultation at all?
Yeah, so absolutely I do, because again, this is an effort to make our university more accepting, so 100% I do. And there hasn't been any consultation because that meeting with Dr. Vanacore was pushed back. I did not want to come into here and say I hadn't met with anybody yet, but that meeting will happen. And between now and the next time we meet, there can be amendments that will be made. So yeah, I stand by my legislation. I think Winston and I have done some great work here. And it's before the Senate, and if there is an amendment that needs to be made, that's why it's here right now.
And if I might tag along, Ethan, so your job as senators is to follow up with that legislation. So I understand there's concerns about not having a system in place, but I think Ethan and Winston will definitely follow up. And of course, I think every senator does that with their legislation to ensure that the changes that we're seeking are actually being implemented. But I do, you have the right to ask that question, and it's a valid point as well. So I just also want to tag along to that as well.
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Senator Cowell?
Mr. Speaker, before I ask my question, can you pull up the document again?
I sure can.
So I think someone mentioned this, and this is also my understanding from the RAs that I've spoken with, is that the door deck thing is a requirement. And so in light of that, I moved to amend the document to strike commonplace from the first whereas and replace and add in it is a requirement. So that's how it would read. In addition, I would like to strike typically from the second whereas statement.
Okay, so give me 1 second. So you said requirement?
It is a requirement, yes.
Is a require. David can't type. We all know this. Requirement, and then what's the second portion?
In the second whereas statement, to strike the word typically.
Okay, I'm gonna make sure I'm highlighting. Strike out. Uh-huh.
And I think that's all I have for the motion.
All right, is there a
seconds?
Alrighty. Does anyone object? No objections. The motion passes. I'll make that quick change. Would someone like to recognize Devin to speak?
Senator Allen recognizes Devin.
Is there
Senator seconds?
Okay, so give me 1 second. Just writing this down. And that was Paige that seconded, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. If y'all can just talk in the third person so it can help me out, that'd be awesome. But go ahead, Devin.
So President Skinner has a question. No, you're, I'm kidding. So I think I
Not
have
that
just
funny,
the worst
Devin.
humor. So I think Senator Lee brought it up. I guess I just wanted to follow up to see if I don't know if and maybe I misheard it. I think the connection's also a little rough over here. Is it possible for the is it possible for the interim between the individual getting to their room and then the decoration being made to have like a temporary thing, and it's just you put down what their preferred name is, and until the decoration can be made, that's the way that in which you can identify the room. And it sounds like I don't know who mentioned it. It's something about a policy. So do you know if there would be a policy amendment if that kind of an approach were taken to kind of fill that interim gap? I don't know if I need to clarify my question.
Point of parliament is this a question for the authors or like for me? Also, I think Aaliyah works in housing also. Okay.
Okay, give me one second. Okay. Okay, okay. Rachel, do you mind repeating what you mentioned in parliamentary inquiry? I did not hear that.
I was asking if it was a question for the authors or
I
for
believe
someone
yes,
knowledgeable of housing policy. Yeah, and then Devin said yes.
It was. If the authors want to defer, I suppose they could, but that's up to the speaker and y'all. I mean, that's not my business.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I would absolutely, if there is someone who works in housing who's more knowledgeable on that, then yeah, I'd absolutely defer to them, because if someone probably has a better answer for that than I do.
Okay.
I would defer to Aaliyah in this. I think she's worked here longer.
Yes.
Rachel, just make sure we're being recognized to speak. We're in a virtual platform. I just ask everyone to be patient. I want to make sure everyone is being heard. So yeah, you are recognized. You have the floor.
Devin, can you repeat?
The question was regarding would housing policy need to change to ensure that what Ethan is proposing happens?
No, I'm sorry. My question is, would the policy need to change if an interim measure were taken, such as having like a temporary ID like card or something, like a, maybe it's just like a little note that has the preferred name on it. Could that just be something that happens, or would there need to be like a policy change to do something like that? I'm just trying to find like a way that we can fill that interim gap without creating problems.
You're saying the interim gap, the gap between.
So from the moment that, so the way I understand this is the student is going to be in their room, and the decoration is already made for them by the time they're there. But with this new system, the decoration would be made after they're there, so that we can ask them what their preferred name is. And so between the time they get there and the time that the decoration is made, I'm trying to figure out if there's a way that we can have like an interim system for, those names being there. And if an interim system were created, like just having a note card that has that person's preferred name on there, if that would be in violation of any housing policy, or if that's just something housing could do.
No, I don't think it would be in violation of any policy, because like another senator said earlier, a lot of halls suggest that you may want to put the decorations up and follow up with the name. So I don't think it would have to be a policy change per se, but it would need to, Ethan, it would need to be like a conversation with Gina and Tomas, so that that can be like a widespread staff email. But as far as my knowledge goes, it was not a written policy on it have to be.
Okay, thanks, Aaliyah.
Awesome. Any other questions? Aaliyah, do you have a question?
I don't. I will.
Okay. Devin, do you still have a question?
No, I'm going to take my hand down now.
Okay. Rachel, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I'm asking so many things. my question for the authors is if you would be interested in tabling this for later, because I know you said you would reach out with Gina and kind of try and get more feedback. I'm just curious how much realistically feedback you think you could get that would be conducive in a week, until the next time that we discuss this. If you think that would be enough time to really make sure that everyone has a solid idea of what's going on, or if you think it would need more time.
Sure. I mean, I think potentially, and Mr. Speaker, let me know if this would be in line, but potentially we could table it next week, depending on the status of the piece of legislation. Because I certainly think after our meeting, we can be productive enough to get a more thorough description of certain things, and we can make the amendments. So I say to that, I'm open to it, but I don't want to turn my back on this too quickly. So maybe that's a discussion for next week, if we're able to do that.
So because we're going through a normal 2-week process, next week will be discussion. So do you want to push it another week down? So we'll be considering this over 3 weeks, or what are you envisioning?
I suppose my question right now is just if we're able to just continue business as usual until next week and then make a decision next week on pushing it back.
Yes, that's completely yes. The Senate has the right to do that. I think hopefully you can definitely reach out to Gina if there's still questions that senators may have, or someone in housing, especially Tomas, since I feel like he would be more person that would oversee a lot of this thing. But of course, I don't work for housing, so I don't know. But yes, I recommend go through the normal process until there's any updates that need to be made, or if the Senate feels like it needs to be tabled for a later time. That's right. So
okay, yeah, and I also give my whole commitment to be as realistic with myself and this group as possible. If a week from now it is not in a good place, it will be tabled. I only want to put the best out there. I want to be the best for you guys. So, that commitment is absolutely on the table, but I also have full faith in Winston and I that we can get this in the right place it needs to be a week from now. But 110%, if it's not where it needs to be a week from now, it won't. It'll be tabled.
Okay. Senator Baker.
Yeah, seeing no other questions, Senator Baker moves to close the period of questioning.
All right. Is there a second?
Senator Johnson seconds.
Does anyone object? All right. Awesome. We're moving on to the next item on the agenda. Let me stop sharing. Awesome. Okie dokie. Now we have S2022 R5, food for all students. Let me get that pulled up for y'all. All right, Senator Johnson and Senator Castellanos. You'll have.
Mike, are we good?
Yeah.
So before we begin, Mr. Speaker, we believe that we sent a written motion to you on the amendments that need to be made because of technical difficulties.
Yeah. Let me get that pulled up for you. Just give me a second.
And I also believe I emailed the other senators kind of what we were doing.
Okay.
I got no back.
So because this is the first written motion of the session, it's going to be W1 now. Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me share my screen so everyone can see what I'm doing. Okay. Go ahead, Senator Johnson.
Okay, so y'all, again, I am super sorry about like what happened. In other words, do not use Microsoft Word when you're trying to co-author something. Just going to put that out there. So what this written motion does is what the original document was supposed to be, on which we all agreed upon, and we met with Mustafa, who is actually the president of the Muslim Student Association, and he is here tonight and will speak on this again, if this motion passes, if I'm doing the parliamentary timeline here kind of thing, so do we need to vote on this now? And this was the copy, the amendments we sent, I believe I sent to all senators these were the changes, what it was going to look like, and I didn't receive anything back. So with that said, Mr. Speaker, I move that we vote on this amendment or this motion.
Is there a second?
Senator Castellanos seconds.
Alrighty. Does anyone object? Alrighty. It passes unanimously if there's no objections. Okay, so let me do this. So y'all gonna see me make edits in real time. So
I believe we sent you the updated one too, David, if it's just easier to copy and paste and pull up the other document.
I'm just gonna do this just so everyone can see what I'm doing. Alrighty. As I'm making the edits,
can we go ahead and talk about it?
Yeah, you can start reading the document.
Awesome. So I'm gonna, Alejandro, do you want to read it or can I?
Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So whereas the University of North Texas is a university that prides itself on celebrating an inclusive culture that welcomes all faiths and religions of our diverse student body. Whereas UNT has a diverse population of students from varying religious and cultural backgrounds, many of which practice the consumption of halal food products. Whereas UNT does not serve any halal meats for 3 reasons. 1, it is very difficult to find certified halal meats. 2, they are very expensive, and we have not received any requests for halal meats. This was taken from the University of North Texas Dining Services, a white paper, a source upon UNT addressed this concern. Whereas Muslims can only eat a meat that is humanely slaughtered, so unless they know the meat on campus has been humanely slaughtered, that is halal, then they will not eat meat on campus, which can inhibit their capacity to function. Furthermore, in the Quran, it is stated, so eat only for what is slaughtered to Allah's name if you truly believe in his revelations. I'm not going to even try to butcher that because I'm sure Mustafa could touch on that. Let it be resolved that UNT serves, Let it be resolved that UNT serves and caters certified halal food that is separately prepared to the students of Islamic practices for inclusivity for all students' religious beliefs, respectively submitted Senator Grant Johnson, Senator Alejandro Castellanos, and Mustafa Saeed, President of the Muslim Student Association, and then there's references for UNT and for senators to look at.
All righty. Is there any motions?
Real quick, David. Yeah, for the past amendment, there's a big gap between "let it be resolved" and "respectfully submitted." Can you diminish that?
Yeah, I'm editing it. Don't worry, I got it. Okay, let me first transition over to see y'all. Is there any motions on the floor?
Senator Allen moves to period of questioning.
Senator Allen, just make sure that you're raising your hand.
Oh, I apologize.
You can proceed. So, period of questioning. Is there a second?
Senator Baker seconds.
Senator Baker, awesome. All right, Senator Lee, I believe you have the first question.
I'm not Senator Lee.
Oh my God, Senator Allen. Oh my God.
Okay.
David is.
Good evening, everyone.
Can't multitask.
Just a quick question. So, let me pull it up in my email real quick, so I can look at it a bit better because it's very small.
And again, thank you, David, for making these amendments.
Of course.
Okay. Yes. So, in order to implement this procedure in the university, is there like a specific dining hall, or would it be for like all dining halls, like in every dining hall on campus?
Okay, so first of all, this came up. Me and Alejandro both served on the Eagles Nest Committee, and the wonderful and talented people at the Muslim Student Association came to pitch to us of the Fastathon, loved it. And during that time, the president, Mustafa, came and approached us with that UNT does not serve halal foods and students are having to leave campus. So Alejandro and I reached out to Mustafa and we talked with them and got this legislation. So to answer the questions on in terms of implementing this, of course, me and Alejandro will wonderfully 100% support and hopefully carry this across the finish line. But Mustafa, I want to yield the floor to Mustafa, the president of the Muslim Student Association, to kind of defer your questions on the logistics side of this kind of thing.
And then Senator Johnson, just letting you know, since this is a period of questioning and Mustafa is an author, you don't need to yield the floor.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. Perfect.
Mustafa, go ahead.
All right. How are you doing tonight? My name is Mustafa. I'm the president of the Muslim Student Association. And today, you know, with Grant and Alejandro, we've come up with this piece of legislation, which is, you know, aiming to provide halal meats for students on campus. And essentially, like, where this motion kind of came from is that there are numerous Muslim students on campus, you know, like multiple hundreds, maybe up to 1,000 Muslim students on campus. And a lot of them have indicated, or a lot of them in order to, let me backtrack. So basically, Muslims are required to consume halal meats, which indicates that, you know, the animal has been slaughtered humanely in accordance with Islamic practices. So a lot of Muslim students on campus, they, you know, follow this teaching of Islam, and they are required to eat halal meats, and they are not able to eat, you know, meats that are not prepared in this manner, right? So as a result, you know, we've come up with this legislation to provide these options for students on campus, because a lot of them, you know, they want to eat meat on campus, right? They would, you know, but they have, you know, so far not been allowed to, or not been able to do so, right? And myself, like, I've gone and spoken to, you know, various representatives from UNT dining halls, and the general consensus is that, well, I can quote like exactly what they've said to me when I asked, hey, you know, we should have, you know, some halal options on campus for the Muslim students who would like to eat meat on campus. And essentially the response that was given to me was that if a student is choosing to eat halal, it's understood that a student should be eating off of campus. And a representative from UNT Dining Service told me this specifically. And after going back and thinking about it, I was like, wait, no, that doesn't make any sense, because, you know, Muslim students have as much of the right to be able to eat food on campus, and why would they, you know, and as a university that prides itself on its dining services and the quality of its food, right? We have billboards around DFW stating, oh, second best college food in the country. Why are we not providing any options for Muslims to consume food on campus, you know, especially if obviously they're all, you know, paying the same tuition and paying the same student fees as everyone else. And in addition to that, we are also, I would say UNT is a little behind in terms of the, you know, the greater state of Texas and the United States in general in terms of offering halal products for their students, right? We can look at universities like UT, SMU, University of Houston, UT Dallas, and then outside of Texas, we can look at like NYU and, you know, Columbia and different institutions that have, you know, implemented these, you know, these measures and, you know, are providing halal foods for their students. So that's kind of my spiel here.
Alrighty. Would someone like to recognize? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't think we answered Lauren's question, right? That was you, Lauren?
Yes.
In terms of logistics inside of that. For the purpose of this legislation, this is to assist the Muslim Student Association, because this has been an issue that was addressed, and I approached Devin with this, and this is no way, you know, Devin approving or disapproving or whatever, but in like passing, I mentioned to him this, and he said that this was an issue that was addressed by SGA a couple years back, but then it fell through or something happened, and it just didn't really get the weight that it really needed. So what this legislation would do in terms of logistics and all that, yes, that would be more handled on the MSA side of it in terms of getting what they need, how much it will take. For this purpose, it kind of throws the name of the Student Government Association behind it, like saying the student government is aware of this. We support that food for all students is an tongue-tied, is crucial to being served on campus. So that's kind of what the purpose of this legislation is. But we have, from my understanding, the dining services there is room to improvement, especially when they're about to move a whole bunch of stuff in terms of, I think, heard a rumor that Mean Green will be switched into a lab. Again, that's just a rumor. I don't know if that's confirmed nor denied, but I kind of hope that answers your question.
No, the question was like, what dining halls would you want this like implemented at? Like only like certain ones, like some of the more popular ones that the students use, or would it be like all the dining halls on campus?
Mustafa?
So I can speak to that. Our goal is to, if a Muslim student wants to eat at any of the dining halls on campus, they should have the option to do so, right? If they want to eat at one of the restaurants in the Union, if they want to eat at Eagles Landing, whichever dining hall they might want to do there, we would hope that there are options for them to eat meat, in those locations. And to further assert this point, last week we hosted the Fastathon Gala, which many representatives from the SGA had attended. And, in that event, we had 300 plus students from across Texas. And, I would say like 100 to 200 UNT students specifically who attended. And, this was actually the first time that the university has actually provided halal food from their own kitchens, from Verde Catering. And we hope that, this is almost like a gateway to make the movement towards establishing, halal foods within our dining halls.
Alrighty. Would someone like to recognize Devin to speak?
Johnson recognizes President Skinner.
Is there a second?
Senator Lee seconds.
Awesome. Devin, go ahead.
Thanks. Just to provide some context real quick, I believe there was an attempt to address the issue in previous years. I just took a look. I'm having issues finding the legislation, but I distinctly remember that being discussed. My question is, I think this is something that might have come up earlier, is, so in the resolve section it says UNT serves and caters certified halal food. Can you talk a little bit about who's certifying or what entity certifies that? And then I guess kind of talk about whether or not you'd be interested in providing that certifying authority in the resolve section.
Sure. You can look, in the links that are provided on the document itself. On the one I'm looking at, it's number 2, which says the halal supplier. And it, this is just one halal vendor. And there are numerous, certified halal vendors out there. Crescent is one of the main, one of the more popular ones. There's also one called Creekstone. And I could gather a few more if necessary. But essentially, these suppliers, of meat, right? These guys, they do supply meat in like large quantities for, campuses, restaurants, etc. So they already have their own governing bodies that, ensure that whatever they are supplying is certified and has that certification.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
All right, Senator Lee.
All right. Hi, guys. Hi, Mustafa. Thank you very much for joining us here today and presenting this, and also for representing MSA. My question is if y'all had a specific timeline for how long this would be implemented. I know I went to some dining presentation last semester, and they talked about how they have some plan to release ingredients and recipe lists for all of the stuff to have more accountability for people with allergens or religious needs, but it seemed like a much more long-term goal, like looking at 5-10 years that they would release this, which at that point, most people aren't in university for that long. And so if y'all had a way for accountability to make sure that this is something that happens relatively more fast, or just if there's a specific projected timeline that y'all had for when you wanted to see this implemented.
Mustafa, can I kind of answer that? Then you can kind of come back on that because that's more of a question.
Of course, go for it.
So, Rachel, for this, honestly, with getting anything implemented, I really do wish we write it down and the next day UNT would be implementing that. But like with anything, as David said earlier, that senators, it's up to the senators' jobs to implement this and carry it across the finish line kind of thing. Especially when it comes to dining and really UNT doing anything, in my opinion, a little bit more on the inclusive side. It does take a little bit for a longer time than I think it should be for anything to get implemented, especially when a university that preaches and markets off anything diverse and inclusive here on campus. But honestly, if it was up to me, I don't have a realistic timeline, but it's something that I'm committed to however long it takes or however long I'm here kind of thing. And I don't know if Mustafa wants to maybe add on to that, or Alejandro.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yes, like, this is something that, may take some time. And, obviously we are looking out for future generations of students so that we have a more diverse and inclusive experience here at UNT. But, on the contrary, we do have a lot of Muslim students here right now, right? And obviously eating at UNT's dining halls is not always a feasible option for them if they want to eat, if they do want to consume meat, right? So this is something that I would personally, and I think that the MSA, we would like to have it implemented as soon as possible. And I do think that, especially like in some locations on campus, it is a lot easier to implement it sooner, if that makes sense. So like, for example, the crispy crunchy chicken, many of their branches are already halal, right? The crispy crunchy chicken we have in the Union, many of their branches across the DFW area and any of their franchises, a lot of them are already halal. So I feel that there are, steps that can be taken, so that our crispy crunchy chicken can be like, the first one, the first thing on campus that's halal, and then we would move on to, the other UNT restaurants and dining halls.
Follow-up question, Mr. Speaker.
Go ahead.
Then kind of going off of that, have y'all considered kind of putting something in writing on the legislation saying like we suggest that it happens as soon as possible, kind of codifying so that way it's not more, I don't want the whole burden to be on you as authors or representatives of MSA to be hunting down, UNT dining to try and hold them accountable. And if y'all think there was a way that putting something in writing would kind of make it stronger.
If I'm not, David, can you pull up the legislation one more time? Let it resolve that UNT serves and caters certified halal food. I think that pretty much already says that we want this to happen as soon as quickest way possible. I personally think, and again, Mustafa could disagree and lead the charge on this kind of thing, but I think putting a timeline on something as dramatic as this, especially when we're dealing with quite frankly, a kind of reluctant administration and dining services to kind of do anything and put them on a timeline and be forceful. I've kind of come under experience with working with administrators that you want to kind of kill them with kindness kind of thing. So I don't think we need a timeline. But again, this is where me and Alejandro are just trying to help out MSA here. So if Mustafa, if you want to add a timeline, I think that's fine. And hopefully that answers your question, Rachel.
It does. Thank you.
Senator Baker.
Thank you. So quick question and perhaps a follow-up. I'm not really familiar with how the main campus dining works. Probably the least qualified person to speak on that. Is there already an existing policy or something written down that says something along the similar lines to this that we're looking for, but with like vegetarian options or vegan options?
There's something called the Mean Green Cafe or Mean Green Cafe Dining Hall, where it's nothing but vegan food. But again, this is to serve certified Islamic practice meat, if that's the correct one, halal. So this would kind of not make the vegans too happy. It would make a very important difference.
No, definitely not. No, I'm simply wondering that if there's already something that requires that the dining halls have vegan options, maybe model it after that or borrow some language from that or reference that and say, look, we've accommodated this group. Can we accommodate this group as well? And then I can't remember what my second question was. That's all I got.
Lauren just texted something in the group chat that actually makes a lot of good sense, and I think it kind of answers your question, Nick, about a lot of UNT dining halls already offer vegan food, but I think I know where you're going with this, like saying, like, kind of make it sound official using a policy and making it our own kind of things that we're trying to say.
Exactly. Yeah, more or less. To say, build off that and utilize that as a
Again,
base.
Mustafa could answer this, but from my understanding that there is no halal foods, and it has talked about, again, it's in one of the links that we provided, that UNT Dining has kind of made a stance on this.
Right. Yeah. There is, as of right now, none of the UNT dining halls or restaurants has, any type of certified halal food. Right. And the gala that we had last week, that was kind of the first step and the first time UNT itself as an entity has provided, fully certified halal food.
Gotcha. All right. That answers my question. Thank you.
All righty. Any other questions or motions? Senator Banerjee?
Okay, so my question was kind of along the lines of some of the other senators, like Senator Allen's and Senator Lee's. I definitely think. Also, can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. I think that this is very important legislation to be brought forth, and I think that like the responses that you guys have gotten from dining are kind of like, I'm trying to say it as politely as I can, but like BS responses that don't make any sense, considering other people's dietary needs and cultural backgrounds are taken into consideration. So my only thing is, I think just because of the reluctance and maybe dismissive attitude of the admin that you've already encountered, I think maybe some more specificity in the action that you want, like rather than like I definitely understand that overall you would want halal foods to be incorporated as much as possible, but maybe even including, like, let's say the executive director of dining as someone who would be forwarded if this legislation is passed. Like a couple names that you could pull up. I was just looking it up while you guys were talking, maybe including what was it, like the senior program project coordinator, or there's someone who's like the communications and guest experience. Would you guys be open to including them as recipients of the legislation if it goes through?
Mustafa?
No, I think that might be very beneficial. I think that can, help, move this forward along. This is obviously my first experience with any type of student like legislation, so I didn't know like we could like tag people in it, if that makes sense. Right, but no, I think that having something in there where it gets forwarded to the right people and to the right departments, and can show how much of a need there actually is for this, then I think it's something we should work on.
Saloni, would you mind dropping those names in the chat, the team's chat, and then I'd
Yeah, definitely. I can send you a screenshot of
Oh,
what I
Casey
read
got it.
just
Casey's
now.
on board.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to propose an amendment to the legislation, or I'd like to move to amend.
Adding those names to.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Senator Allen seconds.
Senator Baker seconds.
Hopefully,
give me 1 second.
Also, can y'all imagine what time it would be if we had that constitution if it wasn't for the wonderful motion Senator Cal made? And again, I'd also like to kind of add on and just saying these will be sent, but even if this is one legislation and it's followed up by several pieces of legislation, it again is kind of the first domino to fall kind of thing in a series to make it hold the administration as well as dining services a little bit more accountable. But from my understanding, this was to be used, and I'm glad we're adding the names, but like at least get the conversation back out there kind of thing instead of just UNT saying no. And as Saloni said, the BS questions, love that. I'm going to coin that phrase now, Saloni, so thank you.
Alrighty. I mean,
Also, shout out to Casey for whipping those names out there.
alrighty. Is there any other questions or motions?
If there's no other motions, but I see Nick kind of has his hand up.
I do, yeah. I was reminded of my second question, and it's real short and real quick.
Hey guys.
Hey,
Let's make sure that this is my third time repeating this. You need to be recognized to speak. I am the speaker, the presiding officer. Let's make sure that we're using parliamentary procedure correctly. I get it, we're virtual. I get it that we're excited, but we have things in place for a reason to make sure that we're making decisions that are clear for everyone, so everyone's on the same page. Especially with connection issues, I want to make sure everyone understands what is happening. So this is my last time, okay? Go ahead, Senator Baker.
Thank you. Saloni reminded me of my question in some way, and it was that, so I know that we say, let it be resolved that UNT serves and caters certified halal food, but would it make sense and would you be comfortable to quantify that in some way and say have 3 or 4 or 5 halal options to give them something that they actually have to meet, and kind of like provide them a minimum to meet as an expectation and a date to meet it by, maybe?
Again, Mustafa could probably touch on this better, but I think in terms of if we put numbers on the amount of food they'd serve, they might come back and say, oh, that will be great, but it won't be enough for the student population. Or they might come back and say something like this. But in terms of years, again, I don't see the point in adding it, but I'll let Mustafa, since this is kind of his thing that we reached out and did. So,
No, I think I do agree with Senator Johnson here. That I think keeping it a little bit more open, we can see like exactly how far we can take it, if that makes sense.
All right, thank you.
Kind of Shark Tank it a little bit is what I'm thinking.
Alrighty. Would someone like to recognize Devin to speak?
Senator Johnson recognizes President Skinner.
Is there a second?
Senator Allen seconds.
All right, Devin, go ahead.
I'm hurt. I'm truly hurt. Oh, that's all good. With the legislation, I believe at one point y'all mentioned, and I don't know who y'all spoke to, but at one point y'all mentioned that y'all were told that it would be too expensive and that it's expected that you should go off campus for this food option. Were you told specifically that?
For that, Devin, from what I brought that up, and then I think Mustafa said something else. For that was actually a report that was given out by the UNT Dining Services. And again, that's a link found at the bottom of this legislation. But Mustafa, I think you contacted Dining, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. I spoke with representative in person. I'm forgetting his name specifically, but I know he's I know he's in charge of the UNT Dining Services, or he's one of the people who is associated with UNT's Dining Services. And when I spoke with him about this, that is the response I was given. It's already expected that students will be going off of campus to get halal food.
If I can offer a follow-up.
Yes, go ahead, Devin.
So I understand cost is involved in a lot of this discussion. Do you feel that because you, Mustafa, you're someone that has dealt with this before? I know because Eagles Nest is involved in all that. I'm sure y'all have experienced issues outside of that MSA event as well. Do you feel as though there was discrimination on the basis of your religion when it came to this issue?
Right out of the gate on that one.
I suppose the question is for Mr. Putt, since you have been the one experiencing this issue.
Right. I'm not sure if it was discrimination strictly based on religion. I wouldn't. I don't know if I would go as far as to say that. I would have to, I guess, get more context from UNT's dining services to, I guess, determine whether it's discrimination based on religion. But from what I can say in like terms of cost and all that, I would say that given how many more students will be eating at the UNT's dining services and at UNT's restaurants, and given the slight increase in costs we saw from Valverde Catering and how much they were, how they were able to, I guess, provide the halal option at like a slightly higher cost, maybe like a couple bucks extra to get the halal option. I think that the cost margins and the profit margins would be the same, and could possibly even be of benefit to UNT, by having more students eating at their dining halls.
Okay. And to clarify, my question was not to insinuate that there is discrimination happening. My question was simply to determine to what extent you believed that played a role in this situation. I do appreciate your response.
All right. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, no, I appreciate the question, and I think that obviously that's always something to consider and to make sure that any type of discrimination is not happening when we are dealing with UNT's administration. But in terms of, I guess, this specifically, I don't believe it was motivated on that on that premise.
Okay, Senator Baker.
Being no further questions, Senator Baker moves to close the period of questioning.
Alrighty, is there a second?
What would he say?
Senator Ruiz seconds.
All right, anyone object? No, awesome. Thank y'all so much. Alrighty, believe the next portion of this would be announcements and shout-outs. We can do shout-outs first. Of course, you can unmute yourself and give a shout-out.
I'd like to shout out two people just real quick. One, to my authors, and particularly Alejandro in this one. He was absolutely amazing. I mean, 1 a.m. email sent to David responding, so shout out to you as well. And Mustafa, wonderful. Another one is Zoe. I attended the UNT Police Forum the other day. Was an absolutely very well run event. Raised a lot of questions and very well informed. So shout out to Zoe if she's still on the call. I don't think she is though.
Alrighty.
Oh, and one more shout out for Casey. He came to our committee meeting today and gave us a lot of info. Sorry, Ethan. That's fine.
No, you're good. Yeah, always shout out to Casey. Every day, shout out to Casey. But I want to give a quick shout out to Winston because he texted me right as we were about to present our legislation that he was having some technical issues, which is why he was not able to chime in today. But Winston's been great in this process. I just sort of was like, hey, do you want to work on this with me? And he was like, yeah, okay, and he's done his research, and especially as a newer senator, makes me really happy to see that he's doing his research, he's trying to get involved. So shout out to him. Shout out to everyone who asked questions today. This legislation is a living document, and everyone here is trying to make it better. We all have the same goals in mind. So I thank you guys for offering any suggestions. Shout out to everyone. We're all on the same team here, so I appreciate you guys.
I'd like to give a couple of shout outs. I think he just left, but Mustafa put on an amazing event with the MSA. I had the pleasure of being able to stay for the entire event, and there were a lot of amazing speakers, and it was just a really good event. I'll tell you, with as many people as were at that event, and my understanding is Mustafa is an underclassman. It's phenomenal what they were able to do with that event, especially coordinating with other universities to make it happen. So very good at utilizing resources that were available to him and really getting the job done. So big shout out to him. Also wanted to shout out Eaglethon through the Center for Leadership and Service. They've raised the most amount of money that they've ever raised in a single year. They reached a benchmark, and I did get to run into some folks, Senator Johnson, Maria, Ethan. We all had a blast, and they did the dancing. I just kind of sat on the side, but you will never see me dance. But the event was very good. It was very fulfilling, and if you haven't had a chance to go, it really is something to see. A lot of people put a lot of hard work into that. It's mostly donor money. And so the fact that they're able to put on such a massive event and do a lot of amazing stuff for people that are less fortunate, that's a significant thing. They do a lot of really good work.
Shout outs.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Ethan. Just said shout out to Devin. Devin, amazing photographer. Got those action shots.
I had my phone. Next time I'll bring a camera. Try to do better next time.
Nah, he was a great photographer that day.
I appreciate it.
Any other shout outs? Go ahead and shout them out.
A shout out to David for making it work entirely virtual today.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. It's not ever easy, and I'm just trying to make sure we're doing it in a way that everyone that's either present or watches this can know what's going on. So thank y'all for being patient. I know sometimes I can be a little interesting at times. Just shout them out, y'all. Just shout them out. Y'all know the drill.
I don't know if this is silly, but shout out to my
I was
cat
gonna
who
say-
has been here quiet the entire time. He hasn't decided to knock anything off my desk or interrupt anything. Thank you, my cat.
We love that. We love furry friends.
I was gonna shout out a lot of fellow senators have been made aware of this, but like I was gonna shout out Sophia on top of everything that she has been doing regarding her internship and work and her classes. She's also, working to unify Senate a little bit more. Like we have been talking, she and I, about proposing an idea to do a Senate dinner, like maybe once a month, or just be able to talk to one another and create a bigger bond within Senate. I know there's a lot of us who are new and a lot of us who have already known each other, but that still doesn't mean that we can't take that opportunity to unify even better. So big shout out to Sophia for that. That's awesome that she's doing so much already and she keeps going. So
Stop, you make me blush.
Can I shout out really quick, David?
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to say shout out to all the new senators that have just been appointed in the past couple of months. I've noticed that y'all are really putting in the work. I guess that's what SGA is about making changes, and y'all are really doing that. And I'm so proud of y'all. I also want to shout out Mr. Johnson over there. I don't know if he can hear me, but I wanted to say you've been really sweet to me this whole semester and this whole year. I've really gotten to know you like this whole administration, and I really appreciate you for always being kind to me and just chatting it up about not even about SGA stuff, but just about life in general. And I appreciate you.
Love you.
All right, any other shout outs?
Yes, it's not really a shout out, just an announcement. I really did not think we were going to be back at 21 degrees at this point, but it is 21 degrees outside. It feels like 10 degrees. Please be safe. If you go outside, just remember it takes 20 minutes for frostbite to set in. Just be aware. Stay warm. Try to decompress over the next couple days. Get some assignments done, whatever it is. Chill out. But just stay safe while we have the next couple days off with this cold weather.
Yeah. I also wanted to add on to that. I think this came up the last time that we had a closure, but policy requires, like, when the university is closed, that accommodations may be made for deadlines. So if you're having issues with that, with any professors, or you know someone who's having issues with a professor, feel free to talk to them. Feel free to talk to Dean of Students. Dean of Students might be able to advocate on their behalf when it comes to that issue. I know when there's bad weather and people aren't able to work, money can also be an issue. So it can be sometimes a stressful time. So if that can help alleviate any concerns, either in the group or anyone that y'all might know, reach out to the Dean of Students and see what they have to say. They might be able to help too. So.
On to jump on the back of that, some students actually have reached out to Dean of Students, and they have made it known that it's up to the discretion of the faculty and staff for deadlines, specifically online courses. So is that
if you want to if you want to refer, it's kind of, I want to respect privacy with this kind of thing. If everyone involved feels comfortable talking to me about it, I can look into the issue as well. But I also want to make sure that everyone's privacy is protected on that. So if you have a situation you want to bring to me or David or whoever else, whoever you feel comfortable with, just make sure everyone involved is comfortable with that information being shared. But I'll do what I can to assist if y'all want to reach out.
On a lighter note, shout out to our committee, Campus Life and Environment. We met today virtually, working real hard planning our event. Casey was also there, got some ideas for food. So real proud of everyone for working hard. We're going to get this event down.
Y'all, it's going to be an
sorry.
awesome event. I'm so sorry, whoever said that. I'm saying it's going to be an awesome event. Again, if we get funding.
If we get funding. Yes, I just wanted to piggyback off of Rachel's shout out and be like, I am observing the committees and like the meetings that I sat in on. I'm very proud of you guys. We're definitely moving in the right direction. And I know it's really hard getting everyone's schedules to align, and I really am excited and proud of you guys. Also, I wanted to throw in an announcement. Can I do that, Dave?
Sure, we're now in announcements period.
Okay. Unless anyone else has a shout out.
Who's the best committee, Saloni?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
My audio just cut out.
SSF
Don't answer that. It's a trap.
Yeah, I think my service is a little spotty. I don't know if I heard that one. But I was saying I am planning to work on some legislation about specifically disability accommodations for pop quizzes. And so basically for quizzes and things like that, like if you are registered with the ODA, you have to give an advance notice for like each quiz. So when quizzes are on the syllabi, then it is a lot easier because you can give the advance notice, I believe, at least according to my friend. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong.
I know we can probably talk about this way later, but like I have to do alternative testing for my ODA. And so usually how it goes is that you tell the Office of Disability and ODA, you tell ODA then sends the flyer that is binding. I mean, like legally binding, like you don't want to mess with it, to the professors. The professors must adhere to it. No questions asked.
I was
Right.
just about to say the same thing.
Okay, so for like, let's say for pop quizzes, I guess I wanted to help with like seeing if, in terms of like SGA's reach, if we could even draft anything that would make any sort of impact on the admin. I mean, I know it's not like we make any binding sort of declarations towards them, but I guess like for pop quizzes, have you guys had any trouble?
Again, I just wanted to say I have had no problem with that. I'm a psych major, so I don't know if it's different for other majors. But I've had ODA accommodations since my freshman year. But long story short, I get time and a half, and I get as Grant had said, I get the testing facilities if needed. They are supposed to still send it to the ODA and supposed to, if not, if you don't want those accommodations, the professor is supposed to contact you regarding that. So I've not heard of that before.
Okay, yeah. I have a friend who, like, basically she, for any, like, pop quizzes, she's basically unable to, like, have that accommodation because she's meant to, like, I guess how Grant was saying, like, she usually reaches out a week before. Anyway, all of this is just to say, I guess working on that, if somebody would like to work with me on that, or even clarify the lack of need for it or anything, or just want to talk to me about it, I would really appreciate it.
I would love to talk to you about it more.
Sign me up, Saloni.
Also,
Okay, sounds great.
I would also like to talk
on accommodation legislation.
Aaliyah, can you say that again? You're not loud enough.
Sorry, we can't hear you very well.
Can you hear me now?
No.
A little bit better.
Yeah,
Already
kind of.
working on accommodation legislation, so if you want to pair up, let me know.
Oh, okay, that'd be great. Okay, I'll reach out to you.
Oh, hey, I just had a
Thank you.
quick question. Is the diversity and inclusion meeting still meeting tomorrow? We still doing that?
Okay, so I think our chair is actually absent. But I would say, yeah, I think that we should go ahead and meet.
Okay, I just wanted to double check.
Yeah. Because Gracie's our chair, and I can like confirm with her in our Teams chat. But yes, I would say go ahead. Anybody in the committee, go ahead and plan to meet tomorrow at 6. We said.
Yeah, it was 6.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Cool.
And as long as we can meet quorum. Great question.
Alrighty. Any other announcements? If not, I adjourn this meeting at 8:08 p.m. Thank y'all. I'll stop the recording.